Hello and welcome to Level Up Your English with Kathleen Elise. I'm Kathleen, and this is the midnight live. So, anyone who is joining us today, welcome. I have left a note in the chat to just introduce yourself, and if you feel like it, let me know where you're watching from, and also what your native language is, and if you feel like it as well, how long have you been learning English? I find that that's helpful for me because it lets me know, number one, where you're at, and so therefore where or how I need to direct these lives, what level I need to prepare for. If you're a casual learner, if you're just, picking it up here and there, that's valid too. So, and that also helps me. Or if you've been studying it for a long time and you're just here for whatever reason, for more information, or you're feeling stuck and you need some help, whatever the case may be, whatever information you want to share with me about your English, your learning English journey or your English studies journey. Excuse me, let me know in the chat, fill me in. Again, it just helps me to help you better. And, I clearly know what my students in general experience, the different spots that they have trouble in, but also it's just a generality, a generalization. And you're here with me now. So I want to be able to help you personally. That's why I've been coming live, to give you the opportunity to get your questions answered about the language, about the culture, about behaviors, things like that. You got an email maybe that you felt was really rude. You were confused about the response that you got, and you want to know, is this something you should be concerned about? Is this person really being rude? Or is it just that you're not familiar with the way they're doing business? Anything that you want to talk about, please put it in the chat. And you can always submit your questions early through, oh my goodness, my mind just went blank. You can always submit your questions early through Instagram, in the comments, or here in the comments on the YouTube channel. I will do my very, very best to make sure that they're answered during the live, that either during the live that it's relevant for. If you're not live with me and you have a question, I will put it in where I feel it's best. If you're live here, I'll answer you right then and there. So tonight's topic, again, let me just explain, we'll have a general topic that I've prepared for the night, but that doesn't mean that we have to stick to it, because I'm here for you. So, all right. So tonight's topic is to explain to you what I mean when I talk about the sounds of English. So there are actually, I'll go into a couple of more terms. So, and let me just give you a brief background for anyone who's just, this is the first time you're seeing me. My mission, my name is, I'm Kathleen, and what I do is I am an advanced English fluency coach. Now, people hear the word advanced and they think that they have to be at an advanced level in order to work with me or to learn from me. And that's not the case. What I'm here to do is I am here to help you take the English that you know, and you might know a ton of stuff. You might be, giving presentations in the business world, or, you might be teaching English in your country, or in, wherever. Or you might be just starting out. So it doesn't matter where you are in your English fluency journey. I'm here to help you take the level of English that you have and advance it to true fluency, not just proficiency. People get those two terms confused. I'm here, so if you're proficient in the language, it means that you really know your vocabulary, you have a sophisticated vocabulary, you are good at, reproducing you can say the words well, and you know how to use the grammar, you understand grammar, you can use that at a high level. That's proficiency. If you're proficient, you can you can hold, you're conversational. You can hold any level of conversations in the English language. But fluency takes you beyond just the mechanics of the language and the technique of pronouncing and using your vocabulary, etc. It takes you beyond all of that into a fluency in the language of the people and understanding the culture, the development of, so I'm an American. I'm born and raised in America. So I am an American English speaker. So I am fluent in the language of American English. So, I guide you through a full understanding of the culture and the people and how American English developed. What were the circumstances that we started with, and how did that affect the language that we speak, the way we communicated with each other, not just the words that we say or how we say the words. We say many words and we spell many words differently from our counterparts in England or Australia or Canada. It's the same language, but we have our special differences, and our general national personality is different than those of our neighbors in Canada and England and Scotland and Australia and Wales and Ireland too. So it's all about understanding all the behind the scenes stuff of the language and the people. So, and the culture. So that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to take you from being proficient at whatever level you are at, again, whether you've just started or whether you've been doing this for decades. And I'm here to help you round it all out. Therefore I developed the 4 pillars of 360-degree fluency in English. Again, you get the well-rounded, the full view of the language. So the first of those pillars is speaking English. And they go in a particular order because really it's the natural order of how you learn things. So speaking English, then writing English, and then you have your specialized area of the English language known as business English. And then there's social English, which, so you handle yourself differently in each of these different situations. So speaking English. So when I talk about the sounds of English, many people automatically assume that in order to speak English, you go right to learning your alphabet. But the alphabet is just the the tangible, the visual representation of the sounds that you make. And when languages are developed through sound. Certain sounds are made and put together in a certain way to mean specific things. So, as I'm speaking to you now, the word now, that's a sound that I'm making, and that sound represents a specific idea, a specific thing. So, I can show you my cup, that's a sound representing a specific idea, specific thing. You put these different sounds together in different patterns with different emphasis on different parts of on different sounds. And that's where your communication happens. Okay. So the sounds that I make, that my culture, my community, my society has all, developed and agreed and learned that means specific things. Well, you speaking a different language, coming from a different culture, a different community, having decided amongst yourselves that certain sounds represent certain things, they might be very different sounds than I have to mean the same thing. So, learning a new language is learning what the new sounds are and how it matches up with sounds in the language that your language. And so, how do you put these new sounds together? How do you reconcile everything so that you can, as someone who understands one way of doing it, now learn the other way of doing it? I think I covered everything there. So, communication is all about the sounds that represent ideas. So, when you're learning a new language, and particularly English, because English, many of you may know, many of you may not know, that the reason English tends to be so difficult, and there are so many exceptions, is that English was developed over time and with the influence of many other languages. And those languages, sometimes they were conquering languages. One people conquered another people, settled themselves down, and sort of took over the language that was there originally. And so people had to then incorporate these new words, these new sounds, these new represent the sounds that represented um, specific things from the other languages. And if you have several of them coming in, oftentimes those words, the spellings, the rules from that, I'll just say conquering language, but influencing language, we'll say, those rules stick because people just get used to knowing them. You've got some generations not knowing that there was another way to say it. And so all of these different influences get incorporated. And so a lot of times you will ask, and particularly an American English speaking person, well, why do you do that? Well, we weren't told why. A lot of times it was just, that's the way it's done. You memorize it. It's irregular. That was oftentimes the standard explanation because nobody knew. So just understand that. And so if you can start thinking of, instead of focusing on the spelling and, that your alphabet, your spelling, your rules, all that stuff first, focus on reproducing the sounds correctly. Okay? So if you put all of that technical stuff out of your head and just focus on reproducing what the sounds that you're hearing. So as I'm talking, watch how I'm forming my mouth, watch the techniques that I'm using to make the sounds, and then do what I do and until you reproduce the same sound accurately. Okay. Um, and once you do that, you're going to eliminate so much stress from your learning experience. Believe me. Um, I finally, and again, I'm studying Korean, I've studied German. That was one of my majors in college. I started out learning Spanish. And here's the thing, my Spanish teacher, I think I was 11 when I started learning Spanish. Um, my Spanish teacher was originally, I don't know, she might have been from Quebec in Canada, but she was a French speaking Canadian, and she never got rid of her accent when she learned English. So she had a heavy French accent when she was speaking English to us, but teaching Spanish. So it was a difficult situation, to say the least. Nicest lady in the world, really fun and exciting. And she made the language fun, but we didn't learn it correctly. We didn't learn the sounds correctly. So when I would go to speak Spanish to, you know, people in the area, they wouldn't know what I was saying. um, so I had to retake Spanish. So there's, a great example of making sure that you're accurately producing the sounds of the language. Don't skip over that. I have many students who think that just because they know how to say the word, that that's all that they need, and it causes problems later on. And I've said this before a few times, that if you find that you have an accent in English when you're speaking English, it means that you're trying to reproduce the sounds of English with the techniques of your native language, and it's not going to work. So it will you'll get by with it, but it's not, you're not going to really be fluent. You're always going to have that that thing that gets in the way, that makes you not as clear as you could be when you're speaking to English speakers. So that's why I'm so passionate about breaking down the areas of the process of learning English, and this whole communication process. I spent, oh my goodness, several decades in the business world, specifically in client relations. So I have many designations in areas of effective communication. And I pride myself on being able to communicate effectively and to see where the breakdown happens. And so I'm passionate about making sure that you are effective in giving your message and receiving other messages. So, you have to understand not only how to produce the sounds of the language, but you have to be able to interpret the sounds of the language from a native speaker. If you're in a conversation with someone, um, you have to know what they're saying. So otherwise, what's the point in learning the language? In your own language, you have to be able to interpret body language, what is their face telling you? Their words might be telling you one thing, but the expression might be saying something else. You might be Someone might be saying all the right words, but if they change the stress, the I don't want to say stress. We have enough stress in our lives. The where they highlight a certain word, or how much strength they put into a word, or whether they tone back on it, or the volume and the meter, the rhythm, the rhyme. If someone's talking quickly, that says something about the message. If they slow way down, that says something as well. So there's so much that goes into communicating effectively. And again, each culture that has developed these sounds that we're sending to each other, and you know um, making at each other to get a message across, they have certain patterns, certain meanings, certain, where you highlight things or you don't highlight things. That all means something too. And I we both we'll just use two languages as an example. So one language, both okay, sorry, both languages might use stress and intonation and rhythm and the cadence, and all these different things, and inflection. Both languages might use them in their communication process, but they might use them very differently. And sometimes they use them in opposition. So, if someone's speaking fast in the one language, that might mean that there's an urgency or whatever. I can't really think of, but that might communicate one thing. But then, so we'll just say urgency. But in the other language, speaking fast might mean that you're being rude. I don't know, like just they're opposing. And so you have to understand and be able to not only produce it yourself and know when to use the different bits and pieces of a language, but you also have to know how to interpret it. So and by focusing on learning the language as the sounds, that eliminates, again, like I said, it eliminates so much stress, and it frees your brain up to then just focus on the reproduction of the sound. It doesn't carry all the weight that it does when you have that stress, that tension and stress of the pressure of, oh, I have to know all these bits and pieces all at once. No, you don't. Start off with the basic, then you can add the other layers. Then you can add the grammar. You can add the spelling. You can add the syntax and all of that other stuff later. Get the sounds down. Learn the different variations in the sounds and what they mean. Then you can find out all the details of the physical representations of the sounds, which is what writing is. Okay. So I'm trying to keep these meetings under or no more than half an hour, because I want you to have, I'm trying to target these times for when you're on your lunch break or on your way home, you're during your commute, or just on a time where it's not going to interfere with work or anything like that, work, family, school, whatever it happens to be. So we're coming up on 24 and a half minutes. So clearly I could talk about this for a very long time, just this one topic. And I would love to have a discussion with you about it. So let me just check my notes, make sure. I think I've covered everything. Yes, just the thing. When you're trying to reproduce the sounds of English using the techniques of your language, you're essentially breaking the communication chain, okay? It might not be completely destroyed, but you're breaking it down because or you're causing a breakdown in it because you're not going to be as clear as you could be. And that's a thing I want you to understand is that so many people think, "Oh, I have so many problems speaking English," or "English is just too hard. I can't get it. I'm never going to understand it. I'm never going to be able to do it. So, no, I'm not going to take that step. I'm not going to learn it," or "I give up. I quit." I don't want that for you because if you can understand even just this one thing about focusing on reproducing the sounds accurately, forget about everything else that comes with the sound. If you can just keep it in your head that that speaking English is all about learning the sounds, the rhythms, the tempo or the cadence, the intonation, the inflection, the variations of the sounds. Just focus on that one word and it simplifies everything for you. So there's not all that stuff to worry about. You don't have that cluttering up your head when you're trying to accurately reproduce your message and therefore accurately represent the the language. Okay? So I want to help you understand that you absolutely can do this. Absolutely. There's no way I will ever believe that you can't learn to speak English and that you can't learn to speak English beautifully. Okay. And I learned this lesson, first of all, through the example of my Spanish teacher. She didn't know she taught me that, but she did anyway. Secondly, when I was learning German, many people that I suppose I'm such a conscientious person. And if you give me a task, I will do my very best to make sure I do it my very best. And so I put a lot of work into learning German and I'm serious. I'm a serious person too in so many ways that I'm hyper focused and I was hyper focused on the sound and getting it right. And because I didn't want to let myself down, I didn't want to let my professors down. I didn't want to make the people that I was speaking with feel as though I didn't care about their language because I actually do love the language. It's a tough one, but it's got a lot of beauty in it. And so anyway, um, I was just so focused on doing it right that that's where I learned focus on the sounds, get the sounds right. And because I did that when I was in Germany and going to school in Austria, everybody that I spoke with was really surprised and very complimentary to me when they said that I spoke without an accent. And by that they meant without that foreign accent. These are my quotation marks. Without that foreign accent that so many people get because one of the kids in my class, he was from a town, I don't know, 30 miles away from me. And so we both had the same American accent because we're from the Boston area. So we both had similar Boston accents. But when I spoke German, I got the compliments that I didn't speak that I spoke without an accent, whereas his his pronunciation was, I'm going to say it, atrocious. It hurt me to listen to him. At any rate, so I could really talk about this all day, and I'm seeing that we're coming up on the time. So just don't think about learning the alphabet first. Focus on the sounds, focus on accuracy first, and then work on the fluidity, the transitions from one sound to the next, things like that. And you're going to be fine. Take that stress away, take all that pressure off of yourself by just focusing on the sound. Look at my mouth. Look at how I work my mouth to make the sounds. Listen to the sound as it's coming out of my mouth, and then do your best to reproduce this and get the sound that you're hearing. Okay. Um, I would love it if you, I don't know, can you leave a voice chat message? If you leave a comment, can you leave it as a voice? If you can, do that. And let me hear you. Let me hear you trying. Do your best, and I'll certainly give you feedback if you want me to. So, anyway, in the chat, let me know what you got from this. What was your most surprising bit of information that you learned today? Or is this nothing new? Did you know this already? Because again, I need to know that as well. I don't want to waste your time. I'm here to help you, not just take up your time. So let me know. Talk to me. All right. We will see you again at noon today if you have the time. Because they're live, everything's always a little different. So you're always going to learn a little something new. So join me at noon if you're able to. Again, that's Eastern time. Um, and otherwise, I will see you next week. I hope you have a wonderful week. And I'm really proud of you for just showing up and doing one more thing to help yourself just learn something new and become a better person for it. All right. We'll see you. Have a good night. Bye bye.